Hi guys, welcome to my channel. So I thought today we would have a little look at how to write in parts, specifically counterpoint. So this has all come about because in the forum we have a bit of a competition going on. Once a month we have one, and essentially we all write pieces, and I think it's £5 to enter, and the winner gets the money. It's really good. It's a good initiative to learn a new skill, and this month is no different. So we're learning how to write 4-part harmony, and the idea is that you have to write a piece, and you're only allowed 4 instruments, and it's only 4 parts. So you can't write chords on a piano or something. It has to be something like a string quartet, or a woodwind quartet, or something a little bit more wild and wacky. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about counterpoint, and I'm going to go through 5 tips of how to effectively approach counterpoint. So they're my top 5 tips. I wouldn't say that these are rules, but they are definitely something that you can use as a tool to get better at part writing. You can see here I've got the 4 parts here, and you're going to take a listen to it. As you can hear there, I'm using Tableau strings, and there's only 4 voices: violin 1, violin 2, viola and cello. And here I have notation, scary notation. Just count up on the violin. So if you count from where the swirl starts on the treble clef, that's G. So if you go to here, you go G, A, B, C, D, E, and you get there. And if you went a little bit more, you'd go F, and then G would be the one above the last line, which is an F. Okay, same for violin 2. Viola, the little bit there on the middle line where I like to call the bum crack is you have C. Okay, so we can see there it's C. So if you were to carry on these, it goes C, B, C, A, G, A, B, A, B, C. Yeah, so it'd keep on going, and that's how you write viola clef. It's not difficult really. And cello is where these 2 little dots are, that line in the middle of them is F. So you can think of them as G clef, C clef, and F clef. But more importantly, I just want you to focus on how these are moving. Okay, so tip number 1 is split parts into soprano, alto, tenor and bass. So that's high, high mid, low mid and lows. Yeah, and that's what I've done. So I've took a high instrument, I've done it twice, and one's doing a soprano part, the one below it is doing an alto part, the viola is doing the tenor part, and the cello is doing the bass part in this instance. Okay. As I said, high, not so high, like a mid-range and low. That's all we're thinking about here. Okay, and I want you to think about it in 2 groups. So you've got those 4 parts, but those 4 parts now are going to be split into the top 2, which are these. So violin and violin 2 in this instance, and they're doing the sopranos and altos. And then the viola and cello, they're going to be like, metaphorically the second group. Okay, so that is my first tip, is to think about it like that. And then as you think about it like that, then you can start to think, well, okay, how are these parts moving against each other inside their respected groups. Tip number 2. So try to get parts inside their respected groups that we've just split them in, moving away from each other as much as possible. And if you can't, then we'll go on to that in a bit. But here I can show you. So bar 15 here, you can see these parts are moving away from each other. So this is going down from a D to a B, and then we've got an F to a G. Yeah, so that's so they're moving in contrary motion, we call that. And then again, you know, between that part here, they are moving in the opposite direction in contrary motion again. So that is tip number 2. Tip number 3. If you can't do that, then try to get at least one of the parts static. Okay, so we've got lots of that in this piece. So you can see here we've got this D, and then underneath it we've got the bass line that is moving from a B up to a C. Yeah, so there's, what that does is it emphasizes the movement, and both of those techniques, that's what they do. And actually they encourage the listener to listen a little bit more intently. Okay, so let's just take a listen to that, shall we? If we we'll just go from here. So we've got a static part here now on the violin 2s, just holding. Yeah, so you didn't hear the second violin there because it was the only one at first that wasn't moving, and then the bass came in and that wasn't moving either. So that's a really, really good way of giving emphasis to parts, and those bars as well. That bar 11 and 12. So we've actually got the same part in the violin and the same part in the viola. They're just in octaves. Okay, so, and the rest, it's just adding the harmony. So static parts, that's what they do. They add harmony, they add interest. Okay, and let's just take a listen to that contrary motion thing that I said before. So these bars, these 3 bars. Lots of movement there because first of all you hear the violin go down, then you hear the viola go up, and then finally in bar 16 you then start to take note onto this kind of like this ostinato kind of thing that's going on here in the basses. Yeah, that's more it's more flowing and melodic. So the melody here is actually moving from the violin, and then it's augmented in violin 2, and then it goes down here into the viola, and finally we hear it in this bar. Okay, number 4. So this tip is a little bit like a fail-safe tip, because sometimes you can't always do that. You can't always have them going in contrary motion, and you can't always have a part that is just holding a note as well. So if you can't do that and they need to be moving, then just avoid parallel fifths, parallel seconds, parallel sevenths. Yeah, so that, you know, you can. Parallel thirds is fine because they're just moving in thirds is lovely. It's quite chordal, yeah, so quite homophonic sounding, and in sixths as well, you know, so that's compound fourths. Really, you could think that as. But yeah, so we can think, okay, right, if we can't do that, at least we've got thirds, and it's a good way of strengthening something as well in a small section, because if we've only got four parts and 4 instruments, then we don't need to worry about the same things as we might need to worry about when we're say writing for an orchestra. Yeah, so when we're writing for orchestra, a lot of the time we might think, okay, right, if the more we split up a section, then the weaker that part is actually going to be. So that can be really, really useful for things like woodwinds, where, you know, if we were to have all woodwinds playing the melody, then that's fine. But then as soon as they go into harmony, if we were just to have one harmony part in the woodwinds, they might actually overpower everything because they're just going to be in octaves, going to be stacked and whatnot. So, you know, you can think, okay, I want this part to be really, really strong in this sense, but not too strong. But we don't have that problem with 4 players, because 4 players don't have to compete. They only have to compete with each other. And, you know, in that sense, what they can do then is just play a bit louder. Okay, and the last one, number 5, is just to keep an eye on your voice leading. And what I mean when I say voice leading is just try not to have too many leaps. So a leap of a third or a fourth is generally okay. You know, especially, this isn't a hard fast rule either. You know, this is just this is a rule to say, you know, let's just keep consistency. Sometimes you want a little bit more of, you know, excitement, and I think leaping up always has that feeling of excitement. Especially, you know, so here in bar 13 and 14, so I've gone down a fifth there, and you actually hear it. So if I was to go from here, just keep your eye on bar, keep your ear on bar 14. There was a sudden movement down to the mid range there, wasn't there? So, you know, you can use that type of writing to become a little bit more intimate. This part here does feel it's closer harmony, so it's going to feel much more intimate, and that's another thing that you know generally you are told to avoid. By most people, you know, on YouTube, if you were in university or college, you know, they'd tell you the same thing. In orchestration, is that if you're using strings, then, you know, spread them out, and that's a really good thing to say for an orchestra. However, for a small ensemble, you don't have that restriction really, because you don't have as many players playing the same thing. So that's something that you can think about as well. And this was just a piece that I came up with quite quickly, but you could refine this a little bit more as well, and add a little bit more movement within these parts, which I didn't choose to do because I didn't think it needed it. But in terms of the competition, what I want to encourage you, if I just go back to, is when you're approaching this, it doesn't need to be a long piece. All you need to do is develop your idea. Yeah, so it's one idea, a 2-note idea that I have harmonized all the way through, and I've just made sure it's consistent, and then I've used that in you know, different timings. So where I used crotchets at first, then I went to semiquavers, and then I went to quavers. Yeah, and then, you know, and then altered them, and then used the fact that some of my parts are moving away from each other, and then some are moving with each other, and some are and some are moving towards each other to create movement that actually gives context to those 2 notes. And a good example of something that does that really, really well is Jaws. It's, you know, that's a 2-note motif, and what it's actually doing is it's using counterpoint in a really, really clever way to say, okay, well, I've got counterpoint, but then I've got these other notes that are supporting it, and actually emphasizing the fact that we only have 2 notes in a rhythmic way. So what I want you to do is listen to this one more time, and just take a listen to, you know, see if you can hear where I've used those 2 notes, where you can just hear the da-dum. Not the Jaws one, but you know, but moving up, or da-dum, you'll mainly hear it going down. Okay, and what I'll do is I'll nod. There it is, kind of thing. Yeah, and this is like a 40-second piece. So if you want to join the Discord, it's in the description. Then please come and have a little bash. We have one of these every month. I try to put a video up, or at least go into the forum and have a little bit of a chat to everybody, because it is really good fun. The top 3 will be televised, and it'll be streamed on Twitch, and I give feedback as well to say what I really like and then what I think can be improved. You know, just to support you and just push you guys into the right direction, because I think that's the most important thing here, is just growth. You know, it's encouragement and growth. Right, so yeah, watch my head whenever I nod, and you'll notice when the parts come up. Nodding my head forever there, wouldn't I? But yeah, so it'd be lovely to have you anyway. And yeah, if you want to see more videos like this as well, where I waffle about counterpoint, or waffle about automation, or waffle about waffling, then yeah, please consider subscribing. See you later, guys.